Hello, it's Jen again, and I'm at La Lancha again, my favorite spot. Uh, we just finished a lovely little surf session with my friend Naomi, and I was inspired to talk a little bit about kind of just what I talked about last week, a little bit more about actually kind of a big myth that I see a lot with beginner surfers, and that's you have to paddle hard. I want to kind of break down that whole piece because yes, sometimes you do have to pedal hard, but one of the things that I see a lot is that it's not so much the focus on how hard we paddle, but it's actually how are we positioning ourselves in the wave. And that basically what that means in simple terms is reading waves and putting yourself in the spot. So what's the spot? I'll probably talk a little bit more in another video about breaking down like how waves break and a little bit more about wave dynamics and reading waves, because like we could talk about this for like a million years. But what I wanted to talk today about was where the spot is. And one little tip that I just wanted to give is if you are watching waves, I highly recommend, if you're out there, especially, it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or intermediate surfer, expert surfers already do this automatically, but watch the waves. So maybe if you're at a new spot, maybe you're at your old spot, if you're having trouble with catching waves, if your wave count is not what you want it to be, have a look at the beach. Stand at the beach for a little bit, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, maybe you're waiting for the tide and you can actually just watch the waves breaking over and over and over. You can start to see a general rhythm and pattern. So one of the things I talked about last week is that even when it's, not perfect waves, you can actually still get a lot of waves. And today's a really good example too. The waves are kind of funky, they're really weak, and they were kind of peaking in all these different spots, because the spot that I surf here is a reef break. There's all these rocks, and so the rocks actually help because that's where the wave breaks. But it can be weird because it can look like there's a wave coming. It can look like, okay, I'm in the right spot. So you turn around, you start paddling, and what happens? The wave disappears, right? This is what happens when it's small. One of the biggest tips is to really understand that a wave will kind of come around a shallower feature like a rock, and it will kind of make like a little peak, or it might even make like a curve. So often waves will break, even like sometimes they break in a line, depends on what they're breaking on, but often there's a curve. And someone once described it to me as like the pocket, because it kind of looks like a little pocket. It's kind of like if you have a little curve, the rock is in the middle of the curve, and so as a surfer, we want to put ourselves in the middle of that spot. And what I see a lot is that people will actually paddle away from the pocket rather than paddling towards the pocket. So as surfers, our paddling is all about positioning ourselves in the right spot. It's all about being in the spot. That's it. It's really simple. So if we're near the spot, we're not at the spot. So even yesterday was a really good example. There's a gentleman in the water and I was giving him some tips, and he was like, oh, I see that you're catching a wave over here, so I'm gonna sit over here. And I was like, you're like 50 meters away from the spot. You're not at the spot. If you wanna sit where I'm sitting, that's the spot. So this is the thing, is sometimes for whatever reason, and we can go into the whole psychology of why we don't sit on the spot another time, but the biggest thing is that we really need to be able to look for where is the wave actually breaking. Where it is where we need to get to. So if we see a wave coming, we need to be able to paddle over to where it's actually going to peak, and it moves around. So this is where actually studying the waves, actually paying attention, where does it break? If you miss a wave, turn around and have a look. Where did the wave actually break? Did it break behind you? Did it break at the beach? Oftentimes you're paddling for a wave, you turn around and you see somebody else further inside, they caught it and they're riding it, right? So where were they? Oh. Should we pause it?